Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode at Love Soul Connection. In today's episode, we are diving deep into a topic that's not only vital but often misunderstood: sexual consent and boundaries. These concepts are the foundation of any healthy relationship, especially in today's world where open communication is so crucial. So, whether you're in a new relationship or you're navigating intimacy with a long term partner, understanding consent isn't just nice, but it's a must. So, we'll break down what consent really means. I'll share some real life scenarios to help make it clearer for you and give you some practical tips on how you can have these conversations with your partner. So, whether you're tuning in solo or with your significant other, this episode is right for you. Let's jump in. First, let's talk about consent and why it matters more than ever. Consent is more than just a yes or no, it's about ongoing enthusiastic agreement. It's about ensuring that both partners feel safe, respected, and heard in every step of the relationship. A lot of times we assume that if someone doesn't say no, then they are okay with it. But real consent is much more than silence. It's about getting that clear, happy yes. It's not just about setting boundaries like, this is what I'm comfortable with, but ensuring those boundaries are respected throughout. Imagine this scenario: you are on a date and things start to get a little closer physically. Maybe you're holding hands, leaning in, and you feel like there's a connection. You might think your partner is comfortable with how things are progressing. But how do you really know unless you ask? It could be as simple as saying, is this okay with you? Or how do you feel about this? These little questions can help to prevent misunderstandings and ensure that both people are on the same page. It might feel a little awkward at first, but it's way better than crossing a line that you didn't even realize existed. And remember, this goes both ways. If you are feeling unsure or not ready for something, it's absolutely okay to voice that. A true partner will respect your comfort zone and adjust accordingly. Now let's talk about the idea of affirmative consent. You may have heard this term before, but what does it actually mean? Affirmative consent means that both the partners are actively saying yes to what's happening. It's not just assuming everything's fine because there's an absence of a no. Think of affirmative consent like a green light. It's the clear ongoing sign that both of you are on board. It's about checking in with each other regularly, especially when things start to progress. This doesn't mean you need to stop every 2 seconds to ask, are you okay? But it does mean paying attention to your partner's responses, their body language, and being ready to pause if something feels off. For example, if you notice that your partner seems tense, pulls away slightly, or their tone changes, that's a good moment to check in. You could say something like, hey, you seem a little quieter than before. Are you still comfortable? Or is everything feeling good for you right now? These questions don't have to be heavy. They can actually be a really positive way to show you care about your partner's experience. And most importantly, it lets them know that they have a voice in what's happening. Sometimes, in the heat of the moment, it's easy to miss those cues. So, making it a habit to ask these questions can make sure that everyone feels safe and respected. Remember, if you ever feel like you're guessing how your partner feels, it's a good sign that you should probably check in with them. Now, why is affirmative consent such a game changer? because it shifts the focus from avoiding a no to actively creating a space where both partners feel fully involved and respected. This can actually help to deepen your connection. When both people feel free to express their needs, concerns, and desires, intimacy becomes much more about mutual trust than about just going through the motions. Think about it. When you know that your partner is enthusiastically on the same page, doesn't it make the experience way more enjoyable and stress free? That's what makes affirmative consent so powerful. It's not a burden, it's actually a way to build a stronger and more trusting relationship. So, if there's one thing to remember from this segment, it's this: consent is not a one time question, it's an ongoing dialogue that you and your partner share. Affirmative consent is about making sure that both of you feel safe, heard, and respected throughout the entire experience. And if you ever feel unsure, don't be afraid to pause and ask. It's a small step that makes a big difference. Now, consent isn't just about creating a respectful relationship, though that's a huge part of it. It's also a matter of legal and ethical responsibility. We live in a time where failing to understand and respect consent can have serious consequences, both for your relationship and in a legal context. But don't let this make the conversation feel heavy or intimidating. It's actually a way to build more trust and safety between you and your partner. Let's consider a situation. You've been dating someone for a while and you feel comfortable around each other. But comfort doesn't always mean that all boundaries have been discussed clearly. Say you're having a cozy evening and things start moving towards intimacy. You assume that because you are comfortable, they must be too. But what if they are not entirely sure and they don't voice it because they feel pressured or unsure of how to bring it up? Without that clear discussion, your partner might end up feeling that their boundaries were crossed. This could lead to hurt feelings, misunderstandings, and even a strain in the relationship. And in some situations, it could have legal consequences, especially if there's a misunderstanding about whether consent was given. It's so important to be aware that in many places, the law requires a clear, enthusiastic yes to intimate activities. It's not enough to assume that a lack of a no means everything's fine. This can be especially relevant for younger people who may not fully understand the legal implications of intimate relationships. Let's be real. The last thing anyone wants is for a moment that's supposed to be about connection and closeness to end up as a misunderstanding with serious consequences. Respecting your partner's words and feelings isn't about ruining the moment. It's about making sure that moment is truly wanted by both of you. It's about protecting both of you, emotionally and legally. Think about this. You wouldn't sign a contract without reading it first, right? The same logic applies here. Making sure that you and your partner are both clear about what you're comfortable with ensures that no one ends up feeling taken advantage of. It's not about making things awkward, it's about ensuring that everyone's on the same page. The takeaway here is simple. Knowing the legal aspects of consent is just another layer of respecting your partner and ensuring that your relationship stays healthy and strong. It's not just about staying out of trouble, it's about making sure that both you and your partner feel respected and safe always. And in the end, being proactive about consent is a sign of maturity and respect that will only deepen your connection. Consent can feel like a heavy topic, but it's really just about being mindful of each other's comfort and feelings. To make it easier to understand, let's look at some everyday scenarios where consent comes into play. These examples will show how just a few extra moments of conversation can create a huge difference in how both the partners feel. Remember, it's not about complicating things, it's about ensuring both of you are on the same page and comfortable in the moment. Picture this: you're on a cozy date night with your partner. You've had a great evening, shared some laughs, and you both feel connected. Things are romantic, and both of you lean in for a kiss. Now, rather than assuming it's okay because the mood feels right, a quick, "Are you comfortable if I do this?" can shift the entire vibe in a positive way. This simple question does two things. It shows that you're thinking about their feelings, and it creates a safe space for both of you to be honest. Maybe they are into it, and the green light makes the moment even better. Or maybe they are not quite there yet, and your question gives them a chance to express that. Either way, you've shown that their comfort is a priority, which builds more trust and connection. Let's take another example. Let's say you're at a party and a close friend starts making moves on you. You might have known this person for years, but friendship doesn't automatically mean consent is given. This is where a quick check in can make all the difference. A simple, "Hey, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but are you okay with this?" can save you both from any misunderstandings later. It's better to have that small moment of clarity than to assume and regret it. This question acknowledges that just because there's familiarity doesn't mean that boundaries don't exist. It shows respect for the other person's feelings, and it helps maintain the trust that's essential in any close relationship. It's a small gesture, but it can prevent a lot of confusion and potential hurt. Now, here's something that's really important to remember: consent isn't a one time question, it's an ongoing conversation, especially during more intimate moments. Think of it as a way to keep the communication open, even when things are getting heated. It might seem like a buzzkill to ask, "Is this still okay?" or "Do you want to continue?" But these check ins show that you're tuned into their feelings and care about their comfort. Imagine you're with your partner and things are progressing physically. Maybe at first everything feels great, but as time goes on, one of you might start feeling a bit unsure. A simple question like, "How are you feeling? Do you want to keep going?" gives your partner the chance to speak up if they need a break or they want to slow down. It's about making sure that both partners are comfortable throughout the experience and can speak up if they are not. These little check ins help to create a space where both people can enjoy the moment without worrying about being misunderstood. It makes intimacy feel safer, more connected, and more enjoyable because you both know that you're on the same page. Think of consent like a GPS for intimacy. It helps guide you both to a place where you feel safe and understood. And just like you wouldn't head off on a long drive without checking directions now and then, you shouldn't assume that everything's fine without those little check ins along the way. A yes at the start doesn't mean a yes forever, and it's okay for feelings to change. What's important is that you're both open to talking about it. The main point here is that asking these questions doesn't make the moment less romantic. It makes it more respectful. It's about being a partner who cares enough to listen and make sure that every step of the way, both of you feel good about where things are going. When you practice this kind of communication, you're not just being considerate, you're building a foundation of trust that makes the relationship stronger in the long run. Now let's get into a crucial aspect of consent: how to communicate about it without making things feel awkward or forced. We all know that in moments of closeness, it can feel a little strange to pause and have a serious chat. But the truth is, bringing up consent doesn't have to kill the mood. It's about making sure that both partners feel safe and respected. And when done right, it can actually bring you closer. So, how do you do it? Let's explore some strategies that can make these conversations feel more natural and supportive. A great way to start is with a phrase like, I really care about how you feel. Are you comfortable with this? It might sound simple, but those words can make a world of difference. This approach does two things: it shows that you're prioritizing their comfort, and it opens up a space for honest communication. It's not about treating consent as a checklist or a formality. It's about making sure that your partner feels safe to express their needs and boundaries at every step of the way. Think about it like checking the weather before a trip. If you're planning a hike, you would want to know if there's a chance of rain so you can adjust your plans, right? The same principle applies here. By asking your partner how they feel, you're making sure you're both on the same page, and it helps to create a more relaxed and trusting environment for both of you. Another approach, if you're unsure how to bring up consent, is to say something like, please let me know if anything feels uncomfortable. We can stop anytime. This kind of statement is really powerful because it reassures your partner that they have the freedom to speak up at any point, even if things have already started. It helps to reduce the pressure they might feel to continue just because things are already in motion. It's like pressing a pause button whenever needed, so both people can feel confident and secure. Imagine you're at a theme park and you're not sure if you want to try a new roller coaster. It would feel a lot better if a friend said, hey, if you're not feeling it, we can step out of line anytime. No worries. This is similar to how consent should work in relationships. It's about knowing that you can change your mind and that's completely okay. That reassurance can make a huge difference in how safe and respected your partner feels. It's also important to remember that consent is ongoing. It's not a one time deal. Just because someone was comfortable with something yesterday doesn't mean they'll feel the same way today, and that's perfectly normal. This is why it's so valuable to keep checking in with your partner, especially if you notice a change in their body language or if they seem less enthusiastic. A simple question like, is everything still good? Or are you enjoying this? Can keep the communication lines open and show that you genuinely care about their comfort. Think of it like a team sport. Communication is the game plan. If you were playing a game of soccer, you wouldn't make a move without checking in with your teammates first, right? The same goes for intimacy. By checking in regularly, you're ensuring that you're working together towards the same goal, and that makes for a stronger connection. So, the key takeaway here is that conversations about consent don't have to be stiff or awkward. In fact, they can become a natural part of how you interact with your partner, just like asking about their day or checking in on how they are feeling. And remember, it's not just about avoiding misunderstandings, it's about creating a relationship where both of you feel genuinely respected and valued. Making consent part of your relationship culture is one of the best ways to build trust and intimacy. Understanding consent and setting boundaries aren't about creating walls between you and your partner. Rather, they are about fostering a space where both of you feel respected, safe, and heard. I know I've said that again so many times, but it's really crucial. It's essential to recognize that the best relationships are built on mutual trust and open conversations, not on assumptions or unspoken expectations. Whether it's your first time being intimate or your 100th, it should always feel like a choice that you're making together, not something that just happens to you. Taking the time to have these important conversations may feel a bit awkward at first, but it's a small price to pay for the rewards that come with building trust and intimacy. Remember, relationships thrive on communication, and consent is a fundamental part of that dialogue. By being open about your feelings and needs, you create a strong foundation that strengthens your connection over time. And before we wrap up today's episode, I challenge you to reflect on how you handle consent in your relationship. Are there areas where you need to have a more open conversation with your partner? Maybe it's about checking in during intimate moments or discussing what feels comfortable for both of you. Whatever it is, take that step today. I'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, or any insights that you've gained from today's discussion. Share your experiences with us and remember to subscribe to the podcast for more episodes like this one, where we tackle important topics related to intimacy, relationships, and emotional well-being. Your journey to a healthier, more connected relationship starts with these small, brave conversations. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care and keep those conversations going.